The story of Ruth and Naomi is one of the most beautiful narratives in the Bible, offering profound lessons on loyalty, faith, and God's providence. Set during the time of Judges, it is a story of two women navigating loss and uncertainty, ultimately becoming part of God's larger plan of salvation. Here is the story in detail. Naomi and her family leave Bethlehem during a famine and settle in Moab. Tragically, Naomi's husband, Elimelech, dies, and her two sons marry Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. Over time, both sons also die, leaving Naomi and her daughters-in-law widowed. Naomi, overwhelmed with grief, decides to return to Bethlehem, having heard that the famine is over. She urges Orpah and Ruth to stay in Moab, where they might find new husbands and rebuild their lives. Orpah tearfully agrees, but Ruth makes a life-changing choice. She clings to Naomi and declares, "Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God." Ruth chapter 1, verse 16. With this profound act of loyalty, Ruth leaves her homeland, culture, and gods to embrace Naomi's people and the God of Israel. When they arrive in Bethlehem, Naomi, now bitter and feeling abandoned by God, asks to be called Mara, meaning bitter. Despite her despair, she guides Ruth, who begins gleaning in the fields to provide for them. Ruth happens to work in the fields of Boaz, a kind and wealthy relative of Naomi's late husband. Boaz notices Ruth's hard work and her care for Naomi. He ensures her safety and even provides extra grain. Naomi, recognizing God's providence, devises a plan. Ruth will approach Boaz and ask him to act as a kinsman redeemer, a cultural practice where a relative marries a widow to preserve the family name. Boaz, impressed by Ruth's character, agrees, but must first settle matters with another relative who has a stronger claim. Once resolved, Boaz marries Ruth. Their union is blessed with a son, Obed, who becomes the grandfather of King David, placing Ruth, a Moabite woman, within the lineage of Jesus Christ. Personalities. Naomi. A woman of deep faith, Naomi struggles with bitterness, but never abandons her trust in God. Her honesty about her feelings makes her relatable to anyone enduring hardship. Ruth. Her loyalty is extraordinary. Ruth's willingness to leave everything behind for Naomi demonstrates selflessness and courage. Her diligence and faith in God's provision make her a role model for perseverance. Boaz. As a man of integrity and kindness, Boaz reflects God's care for the vulnerable. His actions show how generosity and compassion can change lives. Key takeaways. Number 1, loyalty in relationships. Ruth's commitment to Naomi challenges us to remain steadfast in our relationships, even when it requires sacrifice. In a culture often focused on self-interest, this story reminds us of the beauty of selfless love. Number 2, faith and action. Ruth and Naomi demonstrate that faith is not passive. Ruth worked tirelessly, and Naomi trusted God's providence, even in her bitterness. Faith requires both trusting in God and taking initiative. Number 3, God's providence. The story reassures us that even in dark times, God is at work. Naomi's losses seemed overwhelming, yet God used Ruth's loyalty and Boaz's kindness to bring redemption. Number 4, inclusivity in God's plan. Ruth's inclusion in the lineage of David and ultimately Jesus shows that God's plan includes everyone, regardless of their background or past. Number 5, hope beyond hardship. Naomi's journey from despair to joy reminds us that God can turn our mourning into dancing. He is always writing a greater story than we can see. This story speaks to all ages and walks of life, those grieving loss, facing uncertainty, or seeking purpose. It's a testament to how love, faith, and trust in God can transform not only individual lives, but also the course of history.